Okay, hi everyone. Today we're going to go over writing a rhetorical analysis introduction. We hit on this at the beginning of the year, but we focused on it as a one-sentence introduction. And if you remember, we kind of practiced writing those massive one-sentence thesis statements. And those are very beneficial, and we're going to go over that again. And then we're also going to look at an additional type of introduction for rhetorical analysis. We need to be able to tackle both types of introductions for rhetorical analysis, and we need to be able to determine which we should use based on the prompt that we're given. In any type of timed writing, I would like you to focus on this one-sentence introduction. Ultimately, it is up to you, and I'm not going to be there to whisper over your shoulder, but the thing that's beneficial about the one-sentence thesis introduction is that it accomplishes and addresses all parts of the rhetorical situation at once. So it's a formula that you can have in your head that allows you to address all of the things that you need to show your understanding of the text. So before we get to the second type of introduction, I want to look back at the one that we did in the fall and make sure that we are proficient in that type of thesis statement / one-sentence introduction. So the first thing that we do is that we really rely heavily on the prompt to get a lot of our information in order to generate the thesis. So we have some of this information already from the book, but I put it into this prompt here. So I'm just going to read this to us. Frederick Douglass was an African-American writer, abolitionist, orator, and statesman. In 1838, he escaped from slavery in Maryland and soon became a national leader of the abolitionist movement in Massachusetts and New York. Sorry, typo. Gaining fame for his brilliant oratory and persuasive anti-slavery writings. Douglass delivered the following address, The Blessings of Liberty and Education, at the 1894 dedication of the Manassas Industrial School for Colored Youth at Manassas, Virginia. Read the passage carefully. Then, write an essay that analyzes the rhetorical choices Douglass makes to convey his message about education as freedom. So, this is what we call the stable wording. This is the type of prompt that you will always get for rhetorical analysis, and it sets us up to be successful in identifying the pieces of the rhetorical situation. So the first thing that we use is a tag. And so if you remember, what I always want you to find is I want you to be able to find the title, the author, and the genre. So right away here, I'm going to identify. Here's my title. I'm looking for my author. Of course, we're very familiar with him at this point in time. And then our genre. So our genre, sometimes you have to make a little bit of an inference here. We've talked about this a lot, so it's no problem for us. We have the address, the following address, which we know is a speech. So we have our tag. So I'm just going to write our genre down here. Dedication, speech, or speech. We can fill this stuff in too. Just going to do that for purposes of the video. When we think about our speaker, this is what important information is given to us that we could actually use as kind of part of our dependent clauses in our thesis statement. So, for example, he was an African-American writer, abolitionist, orator, and statesman. In 1838, he escaped from slavery, became a national leader of the abolitionist movement in Massachusetts and New York. Like, this is all a lot of good stuff here. So that's stuff that might fit under my speaker column. When we're talking about our audience here, sometimes you have to infer. It's not given to you in the prompt. Now, it was given to us in our textbook that we know that our audience is made up of youth of color, probably future students, maybe members of the African American community in general, and also what we are assuming as white politicians because they're people who are coming from DC, so we're making that inference. Now, if we look at exigence to add to our thesis, and we really can think about this as not a cause and effect here, but a context and exigence, we want to think about the following things. So this is some of this we have in our chart already. Maybe that I want 1894, right? We want to represent that with our date. Maybe that he was an escaped slave who educated himself and now this is the opening of a school for youth of color. So there's a connection there. For our command and our conquer, remember we want to always find what are they asking us to do, and then we're going to find what we're actually answering here. So our command, we always are going to look for a verb like analyze, interpret, something like that. So we're going to write an essay that analyzes the rhetorical choices Douglass makes to convey his message about education as freedom. Okay? So that is our command. When we are talking about our conquer, what we want to do is we want to find our second verb here, and we want to figure out what we actually need to answer. So our conquer always starts with the word what. And in this case, it is, what is Douglass's message about education as freedom? So when we take that then, this is going to directly go to our answer of our conquer. And you guys discussed this in class. So I'm not going to necessarily do this part with you here, but I want you to write something down. What does he want people to know? Okay, and in this case, I might think about his overall message to the African American youth. What does he want them to know? And then what does he want them to do? Okay, so I want you to have two things here. And if you remember, that's going to translate into our thesis statement. So what we're going to do is we're going to take all these and we are going to, as I say here, put them into one thesis statement that addresses all parts of the rhetorical situation and exhibits our brilliance. So this is the template that we're using. This is a review of what we have done before. In the genre title, context, author's name, rhetorical strategies, and then the famous in order to, I love that phrase, your answer to your conquer question and form, ultimately moving who in the audience to do what. So if we go back and I give you some examples again, one from George W. Bush's post 9/11 speech. So I want you to look at this. I color-coded this for you. In his post 9/11 speech, an address that recounts the state of the nation after deadly terrorist attacks, former President George W. Bush varies his pronoun usage, subtly shifts his tone, and repeats patriotic metaphors in order to, here's my inform, highlight that although all are experiencing tragic grief, the country is and will remain strong, comma, ultimately moving the divided American public, there's my audience, to unite and prepare for retaliatory action. So I want you to see in particular here, this is a part that we sometimes struggle with, the difference between my inform and my persuade. Okay, what do I want them to know? The country is strong. We will be okay. What do I want them to do? Unite together and prepare for battle. The second one we have also done from the beginning of the year. We read a letter from Abigail Adams to her son. So here it is. Throughout her letter to her traveling son, John Quincy Adams, Abigail Adams, a future First Lady and historical icon, exposes his naivety, references enriching metaphors, and provides examples of honorable role models in order to convince him that he should allow this trip to, quote, add justice, fortitude, and every manly virtue to his maturing character. So some things are a little flipped around in this example, but it follows the same format. It's just that because this doesn't have a title, right, the audience is here instead. So if there's no title, we go genre audience. Okay? All right. Here it is, y'all. It is your turn. For, in defense of liberty Oh my goodness, that is not correct. I'm going to fix this on your PDF so you won't even see this. For the blessings of liberty and education, I want to see your one-sentence thesis. Okay, thanks.